The blade stopped an inch from Amara's throat. She didn't flinch, couldn't flinch. The silver dagger hovered there, trembling in her stepmother's perfectly manicured hand, catching the dim light of the basement where they'd locked her for the third time this week. But something was different tonight. Something in Amara's chest was burning, spreading through her veins like liquid fire. And when she looked up at Minji's face, she saw fear. Real fear. What are you? The dagger clattered to the concrete floor. Amara didn't know. She'd never known. 18 years of being the freak, the unwanted stepdaughter, the girl who made lights flicker when she cried and caused windows to shatter when she screamed. 18 years of Minji and her perfect twin daughters, Seo Yun and Ji Woo, making sure Amara understood she was nothing, less than nothing. But tonight something had awakened. I asked you a question, Minji hissed, though her voice shook. What the hell are you? Amara felt her lips curve into a smile she didn't recognize. Why don't you come closer and find out? If you're already hooked, smash that subscribe button because this story is about to get insane, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me. Minji ran. Actually ran up the basement stairs, her Louboutins clicking frantically against the wood. Amara heard the lock slide into place, heard her stepmother's panicked voice calling someone on the phone. But Amara wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time in her entire miserable life, she felt powerful. The burning in her chest intensified, and Amara looked down at her hands. They were glowing, actually glowing with a soft golden light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. She turned her palms up, watching in fascination as the light danced across her skin, forming patterns that looked almost like ancient symbols. Okay, she breathed. This is definitely new. She'd always been different. The social workers had found her on the steps of St. Catherine's Cathedral when she was 3 days old, wrapped in a blanket covered in strange symbols that no one could identify. No note. No explanation. Just a baby with unusual violet eyes that seemed to shift colors in certain light. Her father had adopted her when she was 2, and for 6 beautiful years, Amara had known what love felt like. Then he died. Car accident, they said. And Minji, who'd married him only a year before, had shown her true colors within days of the funeral. Amara pressed her glowing hands against the basement wall, and the concrete cracked. Not crumbled. Not broke. Just cracked in a perfect spiral pattern radiating from her touch. She yanked her hands back, heart pounding. What is happening to me? The answer came from the most unexpected source. You're awakening. The voice was male, deep, and came from directly behind her. Amara spun around. The basement had been empty seconds ago. Now a man stood in the shadows near the furnace, tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes that gleamed like molten silver in the darkness. He was maybe mid-20s, dressed in all black, and looking at her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Who are you? How did you get in here? He stepped forward into the weak light from the single bulb. He was beautiful in a dangerous way, with sharp features and dark hair that fell across his forehead. But it was his eyes that held her frozen. They weren't human, couldn't be human. My name is Jae Sung, he said quietly, and I've been watching you for a very long time, Amara Okoye. That's creepy. You know that's creepy, right? His lips twitched, almost smiled. I'm here to take you home. This is my home. Unfortunately. No, Jae Sung said, and his voice carried absolute certainty. This is your prison. Your home is Ethermore, the realm between worlds, where your mother rules as High Queen of the Fae. Amara laughed. Actually laughed, the sound slightly hysterical in the dusty basement. Okay, so you're insane. That's great. My stepmother just tried to kill me. I'm apparently radioactive. And now there's a crazy hot guy in my basement talking about fairies. Fae, he corrected. Not fairies. And your mother didn't abandon you. She hid you here to protect you from those who would use your power for war. The glow in Amara's hands intensified, responding to her spike of emotion. My mother left me on church steps like garbage. Your mother? Jae Sung said, moving closer, cast the most powerful concealment spell in existence to hide you from the Shadowborn, a faction of dark fae who would kill you to prevent the prophecy from coming true. A prophecy that says the half-blood daughter of the High Queen will either save our realm or destroy it. Amara's laugh died in her throat. You're serious. Deadly serious. And now that you've awakened, the concealment spell is breaking. They'll find you within days. Hours, maybe. His silver eyes bored into hers. You need to come with me. Now. Tonight. I don't even know you. You don't have to know me. You just have to trust that I'm trying to keep you alive. Amara looked down at her still glowing hands, then back at the stranger who claimed to know her mother. Her real mother. The woman who'd left her to be raised by a monster like Minji. "If I go with you," she said slowly, "and this is all real, what happens to me?" Jae-sung's expression softened slightly. "You learn who you really are. What you can do. You meet your mother. You discover why your father really died, because I promise you, Amara, that was no accident." The basement door crashed open. Minji stood at the top of the stairs, but she wasn't alone. Two men flanked her, both dressed in dark suits, both moving with an unnatural grace that made Amara's instincts scream danger. "That's her," Minji said, pointing down at Amara with a shaking hand. "That's the freak. Take her, just like you promised. Take her and leave my family alone." Jae-sung moved faster than Amara's eyes could track. 1 second he was beside her, the next he was between her and the stairs, his entire body radiating menace. "Shadowborn?" he growled, and Amara heard something inhuman in his voice. The two men smiled, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too many. Their eyes turned completely black, like pools of ink, and shadows began to leak from their skin like smoke. "Step aside, Lightbringer," one of them hissed. "The half-blood belongs to us. Over my dead body. That can be arranged." They moved simultaneously, becoming blurs of shadow and speed. Jae-sung met them halfway up the stairs, and Amara watched in shock as his hands erupted with silver light, the same color as his eyes. When he struck the first Shadowborn, the creature shrieked and dissolved into ash. The second one lunged past him, heading straight for Amara. She didn't think, didn't plan, just thrust her glowing hands forward and screamed. Golden light exploded from her palms like a shockwave. It hit the Shadowborn mid-leap and the creature disintegrated, its ashes raining down on the basement floor. The blast kept going, blowing out the basement windows, cracking the foundation, making the entire house groan. Amara stared at her hands in horror. "I killed it. I just killed something." Jae-sung was beside her instantly, gripping her shoulders. "Amara, look at me. Look at me." His silver eyes locked onto hers. "You defended yourself. That thing would have torn you apart and enjoyed it. Do you understand?" She nodded numbly, though she was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Minji's scream echoed from upstairs. "What is she? What is she?" "Your worst nightmare," Jae-sung called back. Then, quietly to Amara, "Can you walk?" "I think so." "Good. Because we're leaving now, and it's not going to be pleasant." He pulled something from his pocket, a smooth black stone that began to glow with silver runes. "This is a gateway stone. It'll take us to Ethermore, but the journey between realms feels like being turned inside out. Some people vomit. Just warning you. Could this night get any worse?" As if in answer, the basement began to fill with shadows. Not natural darkness, but writhing, living shadow that poured through the broken windows and under the door like oil. Amara could hear whispers in it, hungry and cold. "More Shadowborn," Jae-sung said grimly. "A lot more. They must have been waiting for the signal." He pressed the stone into Amara's hand, his fingers warm against her cold skin. "Hold this. Hold on to me. And whatever you do, don't let go." Amara gripped the stone in one hand and Jae-sung's arm with the other. "What about Minji? And the twins? I hate them, but I don't want them dead. They sold you out to monsters. They knew exactly what they were doing. They're still human. Still my family, sort of." Jae-sung looked at her for a long moment, something like respect flickering across his face. "You have your mother's heart. That's going to make things complicated." He raised his voice. "Minji Park, if you want to live, get your daughters and run. Don't stop. Don't look back. And pray the Shadowborn are too focused on us to bother with you." He didn't wait for a response. He activated the stone. Reality shattered. That was the only way Amara could describe it. 1 second she was in the basement, the next she was being pulled through a kaleidoscope of color and light and screaming wind. Her body felt like it was being stretched and compressed simultaneously. True to Jae-sung's warning, her stomach rebelled violently. Then suddenly, blissfully, it stopped. Amara collapsed onto soft grass, gasping and trying not to vomit. Jae-sung knelt beside her, his hand on her back. "Breathe slowly, in through your nose, out through your mouth. It passes." When Amara could finally lift her head, she forgot how to breathe for an entirely different reason. They were in a forest, but not like any forest on Earth. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than houses, their leaves shimmering with bioluminescent light in shades of blue and silver and purple. The sky above was wrong, 2 moons hanging in a twilight sky streaked with colors that had no names. And floating in the distance, barely visible through the trees, was a city. A city of crystal spires and golden bridges, suspended in the air like something from a dream. "Welcome to Ethermore," Jae-sung said quietly. "Welcome home." Amara pushed herself to her feet, legs shaky. "This is insane. This is completely insane. You'll get used to it." "Will I get used to killing shadow monsters? Because I'm not sure I want to." Jae-sung's expression turned serious. "Amara, I need you to understand something. The Shadowborn serve the Dark Court, and they've been searching for you since the day you were born. Your mother hid you in the human realm because it was the one place they couldn't easily reach. But now that you've awakened, now that your power is active, you're a beacon. They'll never stop hunting you." "Why? What makes me so special?" "The prophecy says that the child of 2 bloods, born of Fae and human union, will possess power to reshape reality itself. You're not just Fae, Amara. You're something new. Something that's never existed before." He gestured to the glowing city in the distance. "That's Lumini, the capital of the Light Court, where your mother rules. She's been waiting 18 years to see you again." Amara's chest tightened. "If she wanted to see me so badly, why didn't she come herself? Why send you?" "Because leaving Lumini would create a power vacuum. The Dark Court would attack immediately, and thousands would die." Jae-sung's voice gentled. "She wanted to come, Amara. I've seen her weep over your absence. But a queen's duty comes before a mother's heart. That's a terrible choice to have to make." "Yes, it is." They started walking through the forest, following a path of stones that glowed faintly in the dimness. Amara noticed that the plants seemed to react to her presence, flowers turning toward her as she passed, vines shifting out of her way. "They recognize your power," Jae-sung explained. "All of Ethermore will feel your presence now. The prophecy child has returned." "Stop calling me that. I'm just Amara." "You're never going to be just Amara again." They walked in silence for a while, and Amara tried to process everything. 20 minutes ago, she'd been locked in a basement. Now she was in another realm, apparently the daughter of a queen, with people trying to kill her because of some prophecy. It was too much. Way too much. "Tell me about my father," she said suddenly. "My real father. The human one who adopted me." Jae-sung glanced at her, surprise flickering across his face. "What do you want to know? You said his death wasn't an accident. What did you mean?" His jaw tightened. "Your mother loved him. Amara Okoye was a good man, one of the few humans who knew about our world. He helped broker peace between realms when tensions ran high. The Dark Court saw him as a threat, and more importantly, they suspected he knew where the prophecy child was hidden." Amara's hands clenched into fists. "They killed him to get to me." "Yes, Minji was their plant. She seduced him, married him, gained his trust. When he wouldn't tell her where you came from, they arranged the accident." Jae-sung's voice was flat, emotionless, but Amara could hear the anger beneath. "She kept you alive because the Shadowborn needed you alive. They can't kill you outright, the prophecy prevents it. But they can corrupt you, turn you to their cause. That's why she treated me like dirt. She was trying to break me. 18 years of psychological torture tends to do that, yes." Amara felt tears burn her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "He died protecting me. A man who wasn't even my real father died to keep me safe, and I never knew." Jae-sung stopped walking and turned to face her. "Amara Okoye was your real father in every way that mattered. Blood doesn't make family, Amara. Love does. And he loved you enough to die for you." He paused, then added quietly, "Your mother loved him too. When she learned of his death, she nearly declared war on the Dark Court. It took 3 of her advisors and me to talk her down. You were there. I've been your mother's lightbringer, her personal guard, for 15 years. I was barely 10 when she found me, a half-starved orphan with too much power and no control. She saved me, trained me, gave me purpose." His silver eyes held hers. "When she asked me to watch over you from a distance, to make sure you were safe, I didn't hesitate. I've been in the human realm on and off for 5 years, always nearby, always watching. That's still creepy." This time he actually smiled. "Fair enough." They emerged from the forest onto a cliff overlooking a valley, and Amara's breath caught. The city of Lumini was even more spectacular up close. Crystal towers reached toward the sky, connected by bridges that seemed to be made of solid light. Gardens floated in mid-air, waterfalls flowed upward, and everywhere, there was light. Not harsh or blinding, but warm and welcoming, like perpetual golden hour. "It's beautiful," Amara whispered. "It's yours," Jae-sung said. "Your birthright. Your home." A sound made them both turn. 3 figures were emerging from the tree line behind them, moving with predatory grace. But these weren't Shadowborn. These were Fae, and even Amara could tell they were powerful. They wore armor that seemed to be made of moonlight and carried weapons that hummed with energy. The leader, a woman with hair like spun gold and eyes the color of summer sky, stopped a respectful distance away and knelt. "Princess Amara," she said, her voice musical. "The High Queen sends her greetings and her joy at your safe arrival. I am Hygiene, captain of the Star Guard, and I'm here to escort you to the palace." Amara looked at Jae-sung helplessly. "I don't know what to say." "You don't bow back," he murmured. "You acknowledge her service. Just be yourself." Amara took a breath and addressed Hygiene. "Thank you for coming. I'm grateful for the escort, but I'm pretty new to all this, so please be patient with me." Hygiene rose with a smile. "Your honesty is refreshing, princess, and your humility does you credit." She gestured to her companions. "This is Chinyu and Dae-young, my lieutenants. We will see you safely to your mother." They began the descent into the valley, and Amara noticed how the other Fae kept glancing at her when they thought she wasn't looking. Not hostile looks, but curious, assessing. "They're trying to figure out if you're the savior or the destroyer," Jae-sung said quietly, reading her thoughts. "The prophecy says you'll be one or the other. No middle ground. What do you think?" He looked at her, really looked at her, and Amara felt like he could see straight through to her soul. "I think prophecies are tricky things. They tell you what might happen, not what must happen. I think you get to choose who you become." "That's surprisingly optimistic." "Don't get used to it. I'm usually much more cynical." As they entered the outskirts of Lumini, Amara was overwhelmed by the sheer strangeness of everything. Fae of all kinds moved through the streets, some with wings, some with horns, some who looked almost human except for their otherworldly beauty. Market stalls sold things she couldn't name, street performers juggled balls of actual fire, and children chased each other through the air, literally flying. And everyone stopped to stare at her. "They can sense your power," Hygiene explained. "You glow to our senses, princess. Like a star. Can I make it stop?" "With training, yes. The High Queen will teach you to shield your presence." Hygiene paused, then added, "She's been preparing for this day since she placed you in the human realm. Your chambers are ready. Your tutors are chosen. Everything awaits your arrival." Amara's stomach churned with anxiety. What if I'm not what she expects? What if I'm a disappointment? Jae-sung's hand found hers, his fingers intertwining with her own. The gesture was so casual, so natural, that it took Amara a moment to realize what he'd done. His hand was warm and steady, anchoring her. "You survived 18 years with Minji Park," he said firmly. "You awakened your power without training. You killed a Shadowborn on instinct alone. And you chose to warn your abusers rather than let them die." He squeezed her hand. "Trust me, Amara. You are anything but a disappointment." They climbed a long staircase carved from crystal, each step chiming softly beneath their feet. At the top was a palace that made Amara's eyes water from sheer magnificence. It wasn't built, it was grown, like it had crystallized from pure magic. Spires twisted toward the sky, walls rippled with color, and the main doors stood 50 feet tall, carved with scenes of battles and celebrations and what looked like the creation of the world. Those doors opened as they approached. The throne room beyond was vast, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into mist. Columns of living light supported the space, and the floor was polished crystal that reflected everything like still water. At the far end, on a throne that seemed carved from a single diamond, sat a woman, Amara's mother. She was nothing like Amara had imagined. Tall and regal, yes, but also young, impossibly young, looking no older than 30 despite ruling for centuries. Her hair was the same shade as Amara's, deep coils that caught the light like fire, and her eyes were violet, the exact color Amara saw in the mirror every morning. She wore a gown that seemed woven from starlight, and on her head rested a crown of silver branches that grew living flowers. When those violet eyes landed on Amara, they filled with tears. The High Queen rose from her throne, and for a moment, she looked like she might run down the length of the throne room. But she didn't. She descended the steps with measured grace, every inch a queen, though her hands trembled at her sides. Amara felt Jae-sung release her hand and step back, felt Hygiene and the others kneel, but she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This woman had given birth to her, had held her as a baby, had given her up to keep her safe. They stopped 3 feet apart, mother and daughter, queens both if prophecy was to be believed. Amara, the High Queen whispered, and her voice broke on the name. My daughter, my heart, you've grown so beautiful. You left me, Amara said, and hated how small her voice sounded. You left me with them. I know. Tears spilled down the queen's perfect cheeks. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so desperately sorry. But if I had kept you here, they would have found you. The Dark Court, the Shadowborn, all those who fear what you might become. They would have stolen you, corrupted you, or killed you despite the prophecy's protection. At least in the human realm, hidden by the strongest spell I could weave, you had a chance. A chance at what? Being abused? Being called a freak? Spending my childhood locked in basements? The queen flinched like she'd been struck. I monitored you as much as I could. I saw glimpses through the veil between worlds. But interfering would have broken the spell, exposed you completely. She took a shaking breath. I made the choice every mother dreads. I chose your survival over your happiness. And I will regret it every day for the rest of my immortal life. Amara wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold onto the rage that had sustained her through so many terrible nights. But looking at her mother's face, seeing genuine anguish there, she felt something in her chest crack open. Did you love him? She asked quietly. My father, Kwame. The queen's expression softened into something achingly sad. With everything I had. He was brave and kind and so very human. And he loved me despite knowing what I was. When I became pregnant, we knew it would be complicated. Fae and human rarely produce children, and when they do, those children are extraordinary. She gestured to Amara. You are proof of that. But Kwame never hesitated. He was ready to be your father, to raise you in both worlds, to protect you with his life. And then you took that choice away from him. No, the queen said firmly. The Dark Court took that choice away when they murdered him. I would have given anything to let him raise you, to have you both here with me, safe. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But the Fae live for millennia, Amara. Humans live such brief, brilliant lives. Even if he'd survived, I would have lost him eventually. And you would have watched him age and die while you stayed young forever. Amara hadn't thought about that, hadn't considered the implications of being half-Fae. How long will I live? No one knows. There's never been someone like you before. But likely thousands of years, perhaps more. The queen took a tentative step closer. I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. But I'm asking anyway. Please, Amara, let me be your mother. Let me teach you about your heritage, your power. Let me make up for the 18 years I lost. Amara looked into eyes that matched her own and saw desperation there. And hope, and a love so fierce it made her chest ache. She thought about Minji's cold dismissal, Seo Yun and Ji Woo's casual cruelty, the endless loneliness of growing up unwanted. Then she thought about this woman, ruling a kingdom alone, watching her daughter from afar, unable to intervene without destroying the protection she'd so carefully woven. I'm not ready to call you mother, Amara said slowly. Not yet, but maybe we could start with your name. The queen's face broke into a radiant smile through her tears. Adiz. My name is Adiz Moonwhisper, High Queen of the Light Court, Guardian of the Eternal Dawn. She paused, then added with a small laugh. But you can call me Adiz. Adiz, Amara repeated, testing the name. Felt strange on her tongue. Foreign but also somehow right. Okay, we can start there. Adiz looked like she wanted to embrace her, but she held back, respecting Amara's boundaries. You must be exhausted. Jae-sung, will you show Amara to her chambers? We can begin her education tomorrow, once she's rested. Jae-sung stepped forward and bowed. Of course, my queen. As they turned to leave, Adiz called out, Amara. When Amara looked back, the queen's expression was soft. I'm so proud of you, for surviving, for being strong, for becoming someone good despite everything you endured. Your father would be proud too. Amara nodded, not trusting her voice, and let Jae-sung lead her away. Her chambers were ridiculous. There was no other word for it. The main room was larger than her entire house back in the human realm, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked grown rather than built, and a bathroom with a tub the size of a small pool that somehow filled itself with steaming, rose-scented water the moment she thought about wanting a bath. This is too much, Amara said, spinning in a circle. I don't need all this. Jae-sung leaned against the doorframe, watching her with those strange silver eyes. You're a princess. This is actually modest by royal standards. I don't feel like a princess. I feel like me, except glowier and more confused. That's fair. He pushed off the doorframe and moved into the room. Your wardrobe is stocked with clothes that should fit. There's food in the side chamber if you're hungry. And this? He pulled something from his pocket. A small silver bell. Is enchanted. Ring it if you need anything and I'll come. Amara took the bell, her fingers brushing his. Where will you be? Right outside your door. I'm assigned as your personal guard until you can defend yourself properly. You're going to sleep in the hallway? I'm going to meditate in the hallway. Fae don't need as much sleep as humans. That seems uncomfortable. His lips quirked. I've slept in worse places. They stood there for a moment, and Amara realized she didn't want him to leave. Jae-sung was the only familiar thing in this entire impossible realm. The only person who'd been honest with her from the start. Thank you, she said quietly, for coming to get me, for protecting me, for not lying about how complicated this is all going to be. Jae-sung's expression softened in a way Amara hadn't seen before. You don't have to thank me. Protecting you isn't a duty anymore. It's a choice I'd make even if your mother hadn't asked. Why? He seemed to consider his answer carefully. Because in 5 years of watching you from the shadows, I saw someone who stayed kind despite every reason to become bitter. Someone who helped other kids at school even when they treated you like an outcast. Someone who never stopped hoping things would get better. He took a step closer, and Amara's heart did something strange in her chest. That's rare, Amara. Especially here, where people live so long they forget what it means to fight for every moment of happiness. Amara didn't know what to say to that. Before she could figure it out, exhaustion hit her like a physical wave. The adrenaline that had carried her through the night was crashing hard, and suddenly she could barely stand. Jae-sung caught her elbow. You need rest. Real rest. We can talk more tomorrow. He guided her to the massive bed, which was easily large enough for 4 people and covered in silk sheets that felt like water against her skin. Amara collapsed onto it fully clothed, too tired to care about propriety. Will they come for me here? She asked, her voice already drowsy. The Shadowborn? Not tonight. The palace wards are the strongest in Ethermore. You're safe here. He pulled a blanket over her. The gesture surprisingly gentle for someone who'd killed a shadow monster with his bare hands an hour ago. Sleep, princess. Tomorrow we begin training you to survive. Amara wanted to protest the title, but sleep dragged her under before she could form the words. She dreamed of her father. Not Minji's husband, but Kwame Okoye, her real father, the man she barely remembered. He was sitting in a garden filled with flowers that glowed in the dark, and he was smiling at her with such love it made her chest hurt. I'm proud of you, little warrior, he said, using the nickname she'd forgotten until this moment. You're exactly who I hoped you'd be. I miss you, Amara whispered. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. You were a child. You had nothing to be sorry for. He reached out like he might touch her face, but his hand passed through her like smoke. But you need to be careful now. The path ahead is dangerous, and not everyone who smiles is your friend. Trust your instincts. Trust Jae-sung. And trust yourself. What if I can't do this? What if the prophecy is wrong and I'm just a mistake? Kwame laughed, warm and real. Amara, you were never a mistake. You were a miracle. The best thing I ever had the privilege to be part of. His image began to fade. Wake up now, sweetheart. Someone's coming. Amara's eyes snapped open. The room was still dark, lit only by the 2 moons shining through the windows. But she could hear voices outside her door. Jae-sung's voice, sharp and defensive, and another voice, male, smooth as silk and cold as winter. I have every right to see her, the stranger said. I'm her betrothed. Amara sat up so fast her head spun. Her what? She doesn't even know you exist. Jae-sung shot back. And she's exhausted. This can wait until morning. I've waited 18 years. I'm not waiting another moment. The door opened before Jae-sung could stop it, and a man strode into Amara's chambers like he owned them. He was tall, easily 6.5 feet, with hair so black it seemed to absorb light and eyes that swirled with colors Amara couldn't name. He was beautiful in an unsettling way, all sharp edges and predatory grace, and he was looking at Amara like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. Hello, little half-blood, he purred. I'm Taehyun Nightshade, Prince of the Dark Court, and according to a treaty signed before you were born, you're going to be my wife. Amara stared at him. Then she laughed, slightly hysterical. Of course there's an arranged marriage. Why wouldn't there be? Taehyun's eyebrows rose. You find this amusing? I find this insane. I've been in this realm for like 4 hours. I just found out I'm magical royalty. People are trying to kill me. And now some random dark prince is claiming I'm engaged to him. Amara stood up from the bed, and her power flared in response to her anger, making her hands glow. No. Absolutely not. I don't care what treaty says what. I'm not marrying anyone. Jae-sung appeared behind Taehyun, silver light crackling around his fists. You need to leave. Now. Taehyun ignored him, his attention fixed on Amara with unnerving intensity. You're stronger than I expected. Good. Weak queens are useless. He moved closer, and Amara noticed Jae-sung tense, ready to attack. The treaty was designed to unite the light and dark courts, to end centuries of war. Your mother agreed to it in exchange for the dark court's oath not to harm you while you grew up in the human realm. So that's why they didn't just kill me outright, Amara said, pieces clicking together. She made a deal that ends the moment you come of age, which according to Fae law is 18. Taehyun smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Happy birthday, by the way. You turned 18 3 days ago. Amara's blood went cold. That's why the Shadowborn attacked. The protection ended. Clever girl. Taehyun circled her like a predator. Now the Dark Court has a choice. Honor the treaty and gain a powerful ally through marriage, or break it and risk open war. My father, in his infinite wisdom, prefers the former option. And what do you prefer? Amara challenged. Taehyun stopped directly in front of her. So close she could see flecks of silver in his swirling eyes. I prefer winning, and a half-blood queen with reality-altering powers is the ultimate prize. He reached out like he might touch her face, but Jae-sung's hand clamped down on his wrist before he could make contact. Touch her and I'll remove your hand, Jae-sung said quietly, and there was death in his voice. Taehyun looked at Jae-sung's hand on his wrist, then at Jae-sung's face, and something like understanding dawned in his expression. Oh, he said softly. Oh, this is delicious. The loyal guard dog has feelings for the princess. Does she know Lightbringer? Have you told her? Get out, Jae-sung growled. But Amara was looking at Jae-sung now, seeing the tension in his shoulders, the protective fury in his silver eyes, and something her father had said in the dream clicked into place. Trust Jae-sung. As in Jae-sung specifically. As in maybe there was more to his protection than just duty. Tomorrow night, Taehyun said, stepping back with his hands raised in mock surrender. There's a ball to celebrate the princess's return. I'll see you there, little half-blood, in all your glory. We can discuss our future properly. He headed for the door, then paused and looked back. Oh, and Amara? The pink hanbok in your wardrobe. Wear that one. It'll make what comes next so much easier. He vanished in a swirl of shadows before either of them could respond. The silence that followed was deafening. Jae-sung stood rigid, his hands still glowing faintly with silver light, staring at the space where Taehyun had been. Amara sat back down on the bed, her mind racing. You knew about the treaty, she said. It wasn't a question. Jae-sung turned to face her, and guilt was written all over his features. Yes. You knew I was engaged to that arrogant nightmare, and you didn't tell me. Your mother was supposed to tell you. I thought I had more time before the Dark Court came calling. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I should have prepared you better. I'm sorry. Amara wanted to be angry, but she was too tired, too overwhelmed. Is the treaty real? Am I actually bound to marry him? Legally, yes. The treaty was sealed with blood magic, which makes it nearly unbreakable. But Jae-sung moved closer, his expression intense. There are ways around it, loopholes. Your mother has been searching for 18 years. And has she found any? One. But it's dangerous. More dangerous than marrying a dark prince who called me a prize? Possibly. Jae-sung sat down on the bed beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. The treaty says you must marry Taehyun to unite the courts. But it doesn't specify when. If you can prove yourself unready for marriage, if you can demonstrate that you need more training, more time, the wedding can be delayed indefinitely. How do I prove that? You challenge him. At the ball tomorrow night, in front of both courts, you issue a formal challenge. If you win, you buy yourself time. If you lose, he looked away. The wedding happens immediately. Amara's stomach dropped. What kind of challenge? Combat. Magic. Strategy. Whatever terms you set, but it has to be something public, something that demonstrates your worthiness to rule. Jae-sung looked back at her, and there was something fierce in his silver eyes. And I'll train you. We have roughly 20 hours. It's not enough, but it'll have to be. Jae-sung, I killed one Shadowborn on instinct. I don't know how to fight. Then we'll focus on what you do know. Your power. That golden light isn't just energy, Amara. It's creation magic, the rarest form of Fae power. Only the royal bloodline carries it, and even then only 1 in 1,000. Your mother has it. Her mother had it. And now you have it. Stronger than any generation before. Amara looked down at her hands. They weren't glowing now, but she could feel the power humming beneath her skin, waiting. What can it do? Create barriers, heal wounds, purify corruption. And if you're strong enough, reshape matter itself. Jae-sung took her hand gently, and Amara felt a jolt of warmth at his touch. But more importantly, it's anathema to the dark court. Taehyun's shadow magic can't touch creation light. In a direct confrontation, you have the advantage. If I knew how to use it, which is why we start training at dawn. He squeezed her hand once, then released it. Get some more sleep. You're going to need it. But Amara caught his arm before he could stand. What Taehyun said, about you having feelings for me. Is that true? Jae-sung went very still. When he spoke, his voice was careful, controlled. Would it matter if it was? I don't know. Maybe. Amara searched his face, looking for answers. You said protecting me was a choice now, not just duty. What did you mean? He was quiet for a long moment, and Amara could see him weighing his words. Finally, he said, I've watched you grow up from a distance. Watched you be kind when kindness got you nothing. Watched you dream bigger than the small, cruel life Minji tried to trap you in. And somewhere in those 5 years, watching became caring. Caring became something more. His silver eyes met hers. But you're a princess, Amara. You're destined for things I can't even imagine. And I'm just a guard with a complicated past. So yes, Taehyun was right. But it doesn't change anything. Amara's heart was pounding. What if I wanted to change things? Then you'd be making a mistake. But there was pain in his voice when he said it. You need to focus on survival right now. On learning your power, on dealing with the dark court, on navigating the politics of 2 realms. You don't need the complication of a guard who's stupid enough to fall for the girl he was supposed to protect objectively. Maybe I like complications. Jae-sung stood abruptly, putting distance between them. Sleep, Amara. Please. We can talk about this after you're not in immediate danger of being forced into marriage. He left before she could argue, closing the door firmly behind him. Amara flopped back onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. 24 hours ago, her biggest problem was avoiding Minji's wrath. Now she had magical powers, a dead father, a queen for a mother, an unwanted fiancé, and apparently feelings for her bodyguard that were definitely mutual and definitely complicated. My life is a disaster, she said to the empty room. A small voice in her head that sounded like her father whispered, or an adventure. Amara closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. Finally, she got up and went to the wardrobe Jae-sung had mentioned. It was massive, filled with gowns in every color imaginable. She found the pink hanbok Taehyun had mentioned, pulled it out, and examined it in the moonlight. It was beautiful, she had to admit. Pale pink silk with silver embroidery, cut in a traditional style that would fit her perfectly. But there was something about it that made her skin crawl. She held it up to the light and saw faint runes woven into the embroidery. Symbols she didn't recognize but instinctively distrusted. Definitely not wearing that, she muttered, shoving it back into the wardrobe. Instead, she pulled out a simple gown in deep blue, almost black, with no embellishments except silver stars scattered across the fabric like a night sky. Felt right. Safe. She hung it where she could see it. A small act of defiance against Taehyun's presumption, and finally crawled back into bed. This time, sleep came quickly, and with it, more dreams. But these weren't comforting visits from her father. These were dark and filled with shadows, with Taehyun's voice whispering prophecies she couldn't quite hear, with the sensation of falling through endless darkness while something laughed at her terror. She woke to someone shaking her shoulder. Amara, wake up. We need to go. Now. It was Jae-sung, and his face was grim in the pre-dawn light. He was fully armed, silver light already crackling around his hands. What's happening? Amara asked, instantly alert. The Dark Court attacked the eastern border an hour ago. It's a distraction. Shadowborn are inside the palace. Amara's blood turned to ice. How many? Too many. Jae-sung pulled her out of bed. Your mother is gathering her forces, but they're targeting you specifically. We need to get you to the sanctuary chamber. It's the most heavily warded room in the palace. If you're already hooked on this story, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think Amara should do, because things are about to get even crazier. They ran through corridors that twisted and turned, passing other Fae warriors rushing to defensive positions. Amara could hear sounds of battle in the distance, screams and explosions, and the hiss of shadow meeting light. Why are they attacking now? Amara panted, struggling to keep up with Jae-sung's pace. What's the point? They want to force the marriage immediately, Jae-sung said, pulling her around a corner. If they can capture you before the ball, before witnesses from both courts, Taehyun can claim you under combat rights instead of treaty law. It bypasses all the loopholes. So this is all about controlling me. This is all about controlling the prophecy. Jae-sung stopped abruptly, holding up a hand. The corridor ahead was dark, shadows pooling in corners that shouldn't have shadows. They're already here. Stay behind me. 3 Shadowborn materialized from the darkness, their forms more solid than the ones in her basement had been. These were warriors, wearing armor that seemed made of crystallized night, carrying weapons that dripped with corruption. The half-blood comes with us, the lead one hissed. Lord Taehyun has claimed her. Over my dead body, Jae-sung said, and silver light exploded from him like a star going nova. The fight was brutal and fast. Jae-sung moved like liquid lightning, his strikes precise and devastating. But there were 3 of them, and they were coordinated, working together to separate him from Amara. One of them broke through his defense and lunged for her. Amara didn't think, just thrust her hands forward and screamed. Golden light erupted from her palms, but this time it was different. This time, instead of a simple blast, the light took form. It became a shield, a dome of pure creation magic that surrounded her and slammed into the Shadowborn like a physical wall. The creature shrieked as the light burned through its armor, searing its shadowy flesh. Good, Jae-sung shouted, dispatching another Shadowborn. Hold that shield. Don't let it drop. But maintaining the shield was harder than creating it. Amara could feel it draining her energy, pulling power from somewhere deep inside her chest. Her hands shook with the effort, sweat beading on her forehead. The last Shadowborn, seeing its companions destroyed, did something unexpected. It didn't attack. It smiled. The prince sends his regards, it said, and detonated. The explosion of shadow magic hit Jae-sung full force, sending him crashing into the wall with enough force to crack the crystal. He slumped to the ground, unconscious, blood trickling from his temple. Amara's shield flickered and died as her concentration broke. The Shadowborn was gone, destroyed in its own blast, but the damage was done. More shadows were pouring into the corridor, and Amara was alone with an unconscious bodyguard and no idea how to fight. She did the only thing she could think of. She knelt beside Jae-sung, placed her glowing hands on his chest, and prayed her power could heal as well as destroy. Golden light flowed from her into him, and Amara felt something click into place, like a door opening in her mind. She could sense his injuries, could feel the shadow corruption trying to spread through his system. Her power moved almost on instinct, burning away the darkness, knitting torn flesh, mending broken bones. Jae-sung's eyes snapped open, silver and startled. How did you? But we need to move. Now. He was on his feet in seconds, steadier than he should have been after being thrown into a wall. He looked at Amara with something like awe. You healed me. Creation magic at that level usually takes decades to master. Yami, can we celebrate after we don't die? They ran again, but this time Jae-sung was heading in a different direction. The sanctuary's compromised if they got this deep. We need to go to the throne room. Your mother will have fortified it. They burst into the throne room to find chaos. Adiz stood at the center, her crown blazing with light, holding off what looked like 24 Shadowborn with shields of pure magic. Hygiene and her star guard fought at the perimeter, their weapons singing. And standing near the throne, watching it all with dark amusement, was Taehyun. Ah, there she is, he said, as if commenting on the weather. Right on time. You orchestrated this? Amara said, fury burning through her fear. You attacked your own people to force my hand. These aren't my people, Taehyun corrected, gesturing to the Shadowborn. These are rogues, criminals, the dregs of the Dark Court who serve no one but themselves. I'm simply allowing them to create a situation that benefits us both. How does any of this benefit me? Taehyun's smile was sharp. Because when I save you from them, when I personally kill the Shadowborn threatening your life, you'll be bound to me by life debt. Ancient Fae law. You'll owe me a boon, which I'll claim as your hand in marriage. He spread his hands. No challenges or delays. Just you, me, and destiny. Amara stared at him. You're insane.
I'm pragmatic.
He glanced at Adiz, who was beginning to tire under the constant assault. Your mother can't hold them off forever. She's powerful, but she's been ruling alone for 18 years, pouring her strength into maintaining the realm's defenses. She's already weakened. In another 10 minutes, those Shadowborn will break through her shields, and then they'll kill everyone in this room except you. Because even rogues know better than to kill the prophecy child. Unless I kill them first, Amara said quietly. Taehyun's eyebrows rose. You've been awakened for less than a day. You have no training, no control. You'd burn yourself out before you took down half of them. Maybe. But I'd rather die trying than owe you anything. She felt Jae-sung's hand on her shoulder. Amara, don't. There has to be another way. But Amara was looking at her mother, seeing the strain on Adiz's face, seeing her falter, seeing the moment when the shield would break and everyone she'd just met, everyone who'd shown her kindness and respect, would die. There isn't another way, Amara said, and I'm done letting people suffer because of me. She walked forward, and golden light began to pour from her in waves. Not controlled, not focused, just raw power responding to her desperate need to protect. The Shadowborn nearest to her recoiled, hissing. Amara, stop! Adiz called out, her voice strained. You'll kill yourself. Better than the alternative. Amara raised her hands and released everything she had. The golden light exploded outward in a sphere, expanding rapidly to fill the throne room. Where it touched the Shadowborn, they disintegrated instantly, not even leaving ash behind. Where it touched her allies, it flowed around them harmlessly, warm and comforting. But Amara could feel it draining her. Her vision blurred. Her legs went weak. She'd killed maybe 15 of the creatures, but there were still more, and she had nothing left. She fell to her knees, gasping. Taehyun was there instantly, catching her before she hit the ground. Well, that was impressively stupid, he said, but there was something almost like respect in his voice. You nearly did it too. Another few seconds and you'd have cleared the room. Don't touch me, Amara managed, but she didn't have the strength to push him away. Life debt, remember? I'm saving you from the consequences of your own heroic idiocy. He looked up at the remaining Shadowborn. Kill them all. Leave the queen and the guard alive, but barely. I want the half-blood to see what her defiance costs. But the Shadowborn advanced on Adiz and Jae-sung, on Hygiene and her warriors who were too wounded to fight anymore. Amara tried to summon her power again, tried to find even a spark of that golden light, but there was nothing. She'd used it all. Then Jae-sung did something that would haunt Amara forever. He looked directly at her, silver eyes calm, and smiled. I'm sorry, he said, for not being fast enough, strong enough, good enough. Then he turned to face the Shadowborn, raised his hands, and his entire body erupted with silver light so bright it was blinding. Jae-sung, don't! Amara screamed, understanding what he was about to do. But it was too late. Jae-sung released every ounce of power he possessed in a single devastating wave. The same technique the Shadowborn had used earlier but magnified 100-fold. Silver light consumed the remaining creatures, burning them to nothing. It scorched the walls, cracked the floor, and when it faded, Jae-sung was on his knees. His eyes dimmed to nearly gray, blood pouring from his nose and ears. No, 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 Amara sobbed, pulling free from Taehyun's grip. She crawled to Jae-sung, catching him as he collapsed. Don't you dare die. Don't you dare. Worth it? Jae-sung whispered, his voice barely audible. You're safe. That's all that matters. Amara pressed her hands to his chest, desperate to heal him like she had before. But there was nothing. No golden light. No power. She'd burned herself out completely. Please, she begged. Not even sure who she was begging. Please, I'll do anything. Just don't let him die. Anything? Taehyun's voice came from behind her, quiet and calculating. Amara looked up at him through her tears. What? You said you'd do anything. Taehyun crouched beside her, his expression unreadable. Marry me willingly, right now in front of both courts. Bind yourself to me with no resistance, no challenges, no delays. And I'll save him. You can heal him? I have healers in my retinue who specialize in light magic burnout. They're the only ones who can reverse this kind of damage. But they're loyal to me, and they won't act without my command. His eyes bored into hers. So what's it worth to you, Amara? Your freedom for his life. Amara looked down at Jae-sung, at his gray eyes struggling to focus on her face, at the blood staining his lips. She thought about his confession earlier, about how he'd fallen for her while watching her grow up, about how he'd called protecting her a choice. She thought about him throwing himself between her and danger again and again, expecting nothing in return. She thought about how she'd feel if she let him die to preserve her own freedom. Do it, she whispered. Save him and I'll marry you. No fight, no resistance. I'll be your wife. Amara, no. Jae-sung tried to say, but his voice was too weak. Taehyun's smile was triumphant. Witnessed by the High Queen of the Light Court and binding under Fae law. Done. He snapped his fingers, and 3 dark Fae healers materialized from the shadows, immediately surrounding Jae-sung and beginning their work. Adiz rushed over, her face pale. Amara, you don't have to do this. We'll find another way to save him. There is no other way, Amara said numbly. And I won't let him die because of me. I won't lose anyone else I care about. How touching, Taehyun said. True love sacrificing itself. It's almost poetic. He offered Amara his hand. Come, my bride-to-be. We have a wedding to prepare. Amara ignored his hand and stood on her own, swaying slightly from exhaustion. She looked at her mother, at Hygiene, at the throne room destroyed by battle, at Jae-sung being tended by healers who worked with dark magic that made her skin crawl. I have conditions, she said to Taehyun. His eyebrows rose. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. You want me willing, cooperative, a wife, not a prisoner. Then you'll agree to my terms. Amara forced steel into her voice despite how much she wanted to collapse. 1. Jae-sung remains as my personal guard after we're married. 2. I have access to my mother and the Light Court whenever I want. 3. You teach me to control my power properly. And 4. She met his swirling eyes directly. You never, ever use the people I care about as leverage again, because next time I won't negotiate. I'll burn your entire court to ash and myself with it if that's what it takes. Taehyun studied her for a long moment, then threw back his head and laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh, but genuine amusement. Oh, you're going to be fun. Fine. I agree to your terms. Jae-sung can guard you until he gets himself killed doing something noble. You can visit mommy whenever you want. I'll teach you to harness that beautiful destructive power. And I'll be more creative in my manipulations going forward. He held out his hand again. Deal. Amara took it, and the moment their skin touched, she felt dark magic wrap around their joined hands like chains. Not painful, but binding. Deal, she said. The healing took hours. Amara sat beside Jae-sung the entire time, holding his hand, watching as the dark Fae healers slowly restored color to his eyes, stopped the bleeding, repaired the damage he'd done to himself. Adiz stayed too, along with Hygiene, creating a protective circle around them. I'm so sorry, Adiz whispered to Amara. I should have found a way to break the treaty. Should have prepared you better. Should have kept you safe. You did keep me safe, Amara said tiredly. For 18 years. That's more than most mothers manage when their children are marked by prophecy. She squeezed Jae-sung's hand gently. And you gave me people who care about me. That's not nothing. But now you're trapped in a marriage you don't want. Maybe. Amara watched Jae-sung's chest rise and fall, steady and strong. Or maybe I'll find a way to make it work. I survived Minji for 18 years. I can survive Taehyun. That's not the same as living, sweetheart. No, Amara agreed. But it's better than Jae-sung being dead. And sometimes, that's the best choice we get. When Jae-sung finally woke, truly woke with his silver eyes bright and aware, the first thing he said was, You shouldn't have done it. Too late now, Amara said, trying for lightness and failing. You're stuck with me as your charge even after I marry a dark prince. Hope you're ready for awkward family dinners. Jae-sung sat up slowly, testing his strength. The healers had withdrawn, their work complete. Amara, I would have understood. You didn't owe me your freedom. I didn't do it because I owed you. I did it because I wanted to. She touched his face gently, and he leaned into her palm. You were willing to die for me. The least I could do was be willing to marry someone annoying to keep you alive. Annoying is a generous description of Taehyun. Hygiene muttered from nearby. I have lots of other descriptions, Amara assured her. Most of them not suitable for polite company. Despite everything, Jae-sung smiled. You're taking this remarkably well. I'm completely falling apart inside, Amara corrected. But I've had practice pretending to be okay when everything's terrible. Years of practice. She stood up, swaying slightly. Now, we have approximately 6 hours until the wedding. Taehyun's healers said we're doing it tonight at the ball, in front of everyone, so both courts can witness. So I'm going to take a bath, put on the dress I chose, and figure out how to survive being married to someone who thinks kidnapping and manipulation are reasonable courtship strategies. Adiz stood as well, her expression determined. I'll help you prepare. And Amara, marriage in Fae society isn't quite what it is in the human world. There are protections, laws, ways to maintain your autonomy even within a binding. I'll teach you everything I know. Thank you, Amara said quietly. Then, looking at Jae-sung, rest, please. I need you at that wedding watching my back. Because I don't trust Taehyun even a little bit. I'll be there, Jae-sung promised. Try to stop me. Amara returned to her chambers with her mother. And true to her word, Adiz began explaining the intricacies of Fae marriage law while helping her bathe and dress. The dress Amara had chosen looked even better on than it had on the hanger. The deep blue-black fabric hugging her curves before flowing to the floor like liquid shadow. The silver stars catching the light like real constellations. You look like night made flesh, Adiz said softly. Beautiful and powerful and just a little dangerous. Taehyun wanted you in pink, docile and sweet. This is better. This is you claiming your power. I feel like a fraud, Amara admitted, staring at her reflection. Yesterday I was nobody. Today I'm a princess about to marry a prince. None of this feels real. It's real. And you're handling it with more grace than I did when I first took the throne. Adiz began working on Amara's hair, weaving it into an intricate pattern of braids studded with tiny crystals. I was terrified, convinced I'd fail, convinced everyone would see through me. But you know what I learned? Being royal isn't about being perfect. It's about making impossible choices and living with the consequences. Is that supposed to be comforting? Not really, but it's true. Adiz met Amara's eyes in the mirror. You're stronger than you know. And whatever happens tonight, whatever comes after, I'm with you. Always. Amara felt tears prick her eyes but blinked them back. I'm scared. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just don't let it control you. Adiz finished the braids and stepped back. There. You look like a queen. I'm just a princess. For now. Adiz's smile was small and sad. But prophecy has a way of accelerating these things. The ball was being held in the grand hall, a space even more magnificent than the throne room. The ceiling showed the night sky of both realms, stars and 2 moons and swirling galaxies, all moving in real time. The floor was polished obsidian that reflected everything like dark water. And everywhere, there were Fae from both courts, light and dark mixing uneasily, all of them watching Amara as she entered on her mother's arm. Jae-sung fell into step behind them, fully armed and radiating protective menace. Amara was absurdly grateful for his presence. Taehyun waited at the center of the hall, standing before an altar carved from moonstone. He changed into formal attire, all black and silver, and he looked every inch the Dark Prince. When he saw Amara, something flickered in his expression, gone too quickly to identify. You didn't wear the pink, he observed as she approached. I don't take wardrobe suggestions from men who manipulate me into marriage, Amara replied sweetly. His lips twitched. Fair enough. Though I have to admit, the dress you chose is far more impressive. You look like you could destroy my court with a thought. Keep that in mind. The ceremony itself was strange, conducted in Old Fae that Amara didn't understand, presided over by representatives from both courts who clearly wanted to be anywhere else. There were oaths spoken, blood exchanged, rings forged from mixed light and shadow magic that burned when they slid onto Amara's finger. And then Taehyun was kissing her, his lips cool against hers, the bond snapping into place with a sensation like chains wrapping around her heart. When he pulled back, his eyes were swirling with colors Amara had never seen before. Hello, wife, he murmured. Welcome to the Dark Court. If you want to continue seeing how this wild story unfolds, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Drop a comment and let me know if you're Team Jae-sung or Team Taehyun, because this love triangle is about to get messy. The feast that followed was a blur of rich food Amara couldn't taste, wine that made her head spin, and endless introductions to Fae nobles whose names she immediately forgot. Taehyun kept her at his side the entire time, his hand possessive on her waist, introducing her as his princess, his bride, his future queen. Amara endured it all with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It wasn't until late in the evening, when most of the guests were drunk and distracted, that Taehyun leaned close and whispered, "Dance with me. We need to talk where we won't be overheard." He led her onto the dance floor, pulling her into a formal waltz that Amara somehow remembered from her father's lessons years ago. They moved together smoothly, and for a moment, Amara could almost forget who she was dancing with. "I know you hate me," Taehyun said quietly, "and I understand why. But I need you to understand something, Amara. The Dark Court isn't what you think. We're not monsters. We're survivors. You killed people tonight, used them as pawns. I killed rogues who would have killed you without hesitation. And yes, I manipulated the situation. But the alternative was years of fighting while the Shadowborn picked us all off one by one." His grip tightened slightly. "The prophecy says you'll either save our realm or destroy it. I'm betting on save. But only if you survive long enough to make that choice. And you think forcing me into marriage helps? I think uniting the courts under one rule helps. I think having someone with creation magic powerful enough to heal burnout in seconds helps. I think having a queen who's willing to sacrifice herself for a guard she barely knows shows the kind of character we need leading us." He spun her, and Amara's dress flared out like wings. "I'm not asking you to love me, Amara. I'm asking you to work with me. And if I refuse, then we both die when the real threat arrives." His expression turned grim. "The Shadowborn aren't the enemy. They're symptoms. Something is coming from beyond the veil, something old and hungry, and it's going to devour both our courts unless we stand together." Amara stared at him. "What are you talking about?" "The prophecy, the full version that most people don't know. It doesn't just say you'll save or destroy our realm. It says you'll do one or the other in the face of the Devourer, an ancient entity that feeds on magic itself." Taehyun pulled her closer as the music swelled. "My father has been keeping it at bay for centuries, using dark magic to reinforce the barriers between realms. But he's dying, Amara. And when he dies, those barriers fall, and everything we know ends. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Because knowledge like that is power, and power makes you a target. Your mother didn't want you burdened with it until absolutely necessary. I'm telling you now because you're my wife, and you deserve to know what you married into." The song ended. Amara stepped back, her mind racing. "How long do we have?" "Months. Maybe less." Taehyun's expression was unreadable. "So yes, I manipulated you into marriage. Yes, I used Jae-sung to force your hand. But I did it because we don't have time for courtship and negotiation. We need to start preparing you now, today, or there won't be any realm left to rule." Amara wanted to call him a liar, wanted to believe this was just another manipulation. But something in his eyes, something ancient and tired, told her he was speaking the truth. "My mother knows about this?" "She knows. So does Jae-sung. So do most of the high-ranking nobles in both courts. We've been preparing for this moment since before you were born." He offered her his hand again. "I know you don't trust me, but I'm asking you to try. Because if we can't work together, if we can't find a way to combine light and shadow, creation and destruction, everything ends." "No pressure." Amara looked at his outstretched hand, at the ring on her finger that still burned faintly with mixed magic, at the ballroom full of Fae from both courts watching their every move. She thought about Jae-sung nearly dying, about her father murdered to protect her, about her mother ruling alone for 18 years while knowing this threat approached. She thought about the prophecy, about being someone who could save or destroy everything, about having that choice hanging over her head like a sword. Then she took Taehyun's hand. "Fine," she said. "We'll work together. But understand this, husband. I'm not your possession. I'm not your prize. I'm your partner, or I'm your enemy. There's no middle ground." Taehyun's smile was sharp and genuine. "I wouldn't have it any other way." He pulled her back onto the dance floor. "Tomorrow we start your real training. Not just controlling your power, but understanding it. Understanding what makes you the key to either salvation or apocalypse. Comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to keep you alive long enough to fulfill your destiny, whatever that turns out to be." They danced for another hour, and slowly, Amara began to notice things. The way Dark Court nobles watched Taehyun with respect tinged with fear. The way Light Court nobles watched her mother with devotion. The way both sides stayed carefully separated, even at a wedding meant to unite them. The way Jae-sung watched her from his position against the wall. Silver eyes tracking her every movement, protective and possessive and heartbroken. When the dance finally ended and Taehyun released her to speak with some dark court advisors, Amara made her way to Jae-sung. "You knew," she said quietly, "about the devourer, about what's coming." "Yes." Jae-sung didn't meet her eyes. "Your mother made me swear not to tell you until you were ready. She wanted you to have what childhood you could. I deserved to know. You deserved to be happy." His gaze finally met hers, and Amara saw pain there. Even if it was built on ignorance, even if it was temporary. You deserved something good before the weight of the world landed on your shoulders. Amara wanted to be angry, but she was too tired. The marriage bond, it doesn't change anything between us. It changes everything. Jae-sung's voice was rough. You're bound to him now, legally, magically, in every way that matters. And I'm just the guard who loves you too much to walk away. Don't. He shook his head. Please. I can't hear whatever you were going to say. I need to focus on keeping you alive, and I can't do that if I'm thinking about what could have been. Before Amara could respond, the hall doors burst open. A light court messenger stumbled in, bleeding from a dozen wounds, her wings shredded. The eastern border, she gasped. It's fallen. The barrier is breaking. They're coming through. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Nobles screaming, warriors drawing weapons, Adiz shouting orders. But Amara stood frozen, watching as cracks began to appear in the air itself, like reality was fracturing. Through those cracks, she could see something vast and hungry, something that made the Shadowborn look like children's toys. Eyes that had seen the birth and death of universes. Mouths that could swallow stars. The devourer. So much for months, Taehyun said, suddenly beside her. His face was pale but determined. Looks like we're accelerating the timeline. What do we do? Amara asked, and hated how her voice shook. We fight. Together. Light and dark, creation and destruction. Exactly like the prophecy said. He grabbed her hand, and power flowed between them. Gold and shadow mixing into something new. Are you ready to find out if you're the savior or the destroyer? Amara looked at the cracks spreading across the sky, at the entity pushing through from beyond, at her mother rallying her warriors, at Jae-sung moving to her other side with silver light blazing around him. She thought about 18 years of survival, of enduring when it would have been easier to break, of choosing kindness when cruelty was all she knew. She thought about her father's lessons, her mother's sacrifice, Jae-sung's devotion, and even Taehyun's brutal honesty. She thought about choice, about destiny, about prophecy being what you made of it. I'm ready, she said, and meant it. Golden light erupted from her hands. But this time it was different. This time it was controlled, focused, merged with Taehyun's shadow magic to create something that had never existed before. A force that was neither light nor dark, but both. Balance, harmony, power. The cracks in reality screamed as her combined magic hit them. Sealing, healing, pushing back the devourer's advance. It wasn't enough to close them completely, but it was enough to slow the entity's progress, to buy them time. But we can't hold this forever. We need to find its anchor point, the place where it's forcing its way through, and seal it permanently. The cathedral, Jae-sung said suddenly. St. Catherine's Cathedral, where you were found. It's built on a convergence point between realms. If the devourer's using that as an anchor, then we need to go back to the human realm, Amara finished. Back to where her story started. Where she'd been abandoned and protected and prepared, all without knowing it. We need to go home. Adiz materialized beside them, her crown blazing with power. I'm coming with you. This is my realm, my responsibility. No, Amara said firmly. Someone needs to hold the defenses here. Someone the courts trust. She met her mother's eyes. You've spent 18 years preparing for this moment. Preparing me for this. Trust that it was enough. Adiz's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. Then go. Take Jae-sung and Taehyun. Take whoever you need. And Amara. She pulled her daughter into a fierce embrace. Come back to me. Whatever the prophecy says, whatever choice you make, come back alive. I'll try, Amara promised, holding her mother tight. I'll really, really try. They left through a gateway, Amara, Taehyun, Jae-sung, and a dozen warriors from both courts. The journey between realms was just as nauseating as before, but Amara barely noticed. She was too focused on what waited ahead, on the cathedral where her human life began, where apparently her destiny would be decided. They emerged in the human realm at dawn, the sky streaked with pink and gold. St. Catherine's Cathedral stood before them, ancient and imposing, and Amara could feel power radiating from it like heat from a furnace. There, Taehyun said, pointing to the cathedral doors. They were open, and through them, Amara could see the same cracks in reality. Wider here, more aggressive. The devourer was closer in this realm, pushing through with terrifying determination. So we go in and close it, Amara said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. How hard can it be? Very hard, Taehyun replied. The prophecy says only you can seal it permanently. Your blood, half-Fae and half-human, combined with your creation magic. It's the one force the devourer can't consume. Because it's literally creation opposing consumption, Jae-sung added. Balance opposing hunger. Great. So all I have to do is bleed on the right spot and hope I don't die. Amara started toward the cathedral. Let's get this over with. The cathedral interior was chaos. Reality itself was breaking down, past and present and future bleeding together. Amara saw herself as a baby, wrapped in that strange blanket. Saw her father placing her on the steps with tears in his eyes, whispering a protection spell with his last breath. Saw Adiz watching from the shadows, heartbroken but determined. He gave his life to strengthen the seal, Taehyun said quietly, understanding dawning on his face. Kwame Okoye wasn't just your adoptive father. He was the guardian assigned to this convergence point. When he placed you here, he bound his life force to the barrier, holding it just long enough for you to grow strong. And Minji, Amara asked though she already knew, was supposed to take you far from here. Instead, she kept you close, weakened you, made you vulnerable. Jae-sung's voice was tight with rage. She was working for the devourer all along. At the center of the cathedral, where the altar should have been, there was a swirling vortex of darkness. And stepping through it, solid and real for the first time, was the devourer itself. It had no shape, no form that human eyes could fully process. It was hunger made manifest, entropy given consciousness, the end of all things walking. And it was looking directly at Amara. Little prophecy child, it said, and its voice was every nightmare she'd ever had. Will you save your realm, or will you feed it to me? Choose quickly. Reality is so fragile here. Amara looked at Taehyun on her right, shadow magic crackling around him. At Jae-sung on her left, silver light blazing. At the warriors forming a protective circle, ready to die to buy her seconds. She thought about prophecy, about being told since birth who you were supposed to be. She thought about choice, about free will, about making your own destiny. Then she smiled, fierce and wild, and her hands erupted with golden light. How about option 3? She said. I save my realm and destroy you. She charged forward, creation magic flowing from her in waves, and behind her, light and shadow united, following their queen into battle. The fight for everything began. And somewhere, in another realm, Adiz Moonwhisper felt her daughter's power surge and knew, with absolute certainty, that the prophecy was finally coming true. Not salvation or destruction, but something new, something better, something earned through sacrifice and love and the stubborn refusal to accept fate as written. Hope. Thank you so much for sticking with this incredible journey until the end. If you loved Amara's story as much as I loved bringing it to you, do me a huge favor. Smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and drop a comment telling me what you thought about the ending. Did Amara make the right choice? What do you think happens next? Let's keep this conversation going. More epic stories coming soon, and you won't want to miss them.